Hey guys, Jake here with Unreal RPG Mastery. This video is the first part to the player character tutorials for Advanced ARPG Combat. This combat system is available for sale on the Unreal Engine Marketplace. Link will be in the description. Before we start, I'm going to give you an overview of how these tutorials are going to be set up. I'm going to start by teaching how to set up the animation blueprint, then we're going to go through the data table each section at a time until I teach how to implement each feature of the combat, until I've taught you how to get similar results to the overview video. So we're going to start with action montages, then we're going to do dodge directions, hit reaction, Punisher mode montages, knockdown montages, and death reaction montages. I'm also going to show you how to set up the focus state, Punisher mode, parry. After we've done that, I'm going to show you how to add things to the system such as new attack types, new weapons, and new combat types. Alright, let's get started with the animation blueprint. I'm going to use the Movement NMSet Pro from the Unreal Marketplace. You can use the same animations if you want. So open up the Advanced ARPG Combat folder, Combat System, Characters, Mannequin, Third Person Character, and MVP. This is the animation blueprint for the player character. So the first thing we need to do is go to the Anim Graph and go to Ground Locomotion. Here we can change the unarmed animations. Open up idle, idle and turns, idle. Here we can change the idle animation. Go ahead and delete that one. Go to the folder where you put your unarmed animations. Find your idle and drag it in and plug that into the output pose. And that will change your idle animation. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to change the turning place animations. The way this works is if the root yaw offset is greater than 0, then the character will turn left. If it is not greater than 0, the character will turn right. You need to get turn in place animations that are animated similar to Paragon animations, and you also need to add a few curves in order for it to work. You need the distance curve, as well as the is turning metadata curve. To add the distance curve, you just go to curves, add curve, and you find the distance curve. For the metadata, you just add metadata, and you add the is turning metadata. The distance curve, you actually have to set up values on this one. Just right click and edit selected curves, and you need to have your curve set up similar to this. This curve starts at time 0 and value -90. And curves all the way up. If you're not comfortable setting up distance curves, then you can retarget Paragon animations. Paragon animations already have distance curves set up. Okay, now let's change the start transitions. The true pose will be jog start and the false pose will be walk start. Alright, now find some unarmed walking start transition animations. We need to create an animation Blendspace. We need a Blendspace 1D. Choose the correct skeleton for the player character, whatever that's set up as for your project. We'll name this one walk start _BS. Okay, open it up. Now expand horizontal axis here. We'll call this one direction. The minimum axis value is -180, and the maximum axis value is 180. The number of grid divisions is 4. These other options you can tweak based on your own preferences. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our walk forward start. Drag that in and place it at direction 0. Okay, now get your walk right start animation and put that in direction 90. Get your walk backward start animation and put that on direction 180 and direction -180. Get your strafe left start animation and put that in -90 on the direction. Okay, now save. Okay, now duplicate this blend space. Call this one jog start. Delete walk forward start and add run forward start. This animation pack didn't really come with any jog start left or right. So what we're going to have to do is just right click on this one and increase the rate scale. Now drag your walk start blend space into your animation blueprint, and also drag your jog start blend space into your animation blueprint. Delete these two. Plug direction into both of these. Okay, the true pose will be jog start, false pose will be walk start. File and save. Okay, now let's test it out and see what happens. As you can see, the character is sort of dragging his feet a little bit. So what you can do to fix that is click on this one. First, you need to disable looping and start position, set that to something like 0.3. Do the same thing for both of them. This should fix the feet dragging issue, so let's go ahead and test that out. Works much better now. Okay, next we need to add the stop transitions. So go back to your ground locomotion state machine and go to your jog stop. Go ahead and delete that one. Okay, now find your stop transition animations. We need another 1D blend space. Just call it jog stop _BS. Horizontal axis will be direction. Minimum axis value will be -180, maximum axis value will be 180. Okay, walk forward stop. We'll go here on direction 0. Walk left stop will be -90 on the direction. Walk right stop will be 90 on the direction. Walk backward stop will be 180 and -180 on the direction. If these stop transitions look a little bit off, you might have to trim them a little bit. The stop transitions need to be pretty short in order for them to work properly. So drag the jog stop blend space, plug that into the output pose here, and plug direction stop into the direction and save. Let's go ahead and test it out. As you can see, this doesn't really look that good. We're going to have to make sure they're a little bit shorter. An easier way to do that would be disable looping, just change the start position. Okay, just adjust it to whatever your preferences are. I think that's a little bit too much. That looks a lot better. You can spend a lot more time tweaking it if you want to, but I'm going to move on. Okay, now let's set up the base locomotion animations and the sprinting animations. So open up the run state, delete this Blendspace, find your walking animations. Okay, now let's create another animation Blendspace. This time we do not want a 1D Blendspace, so just click on this one. We'll call this one base locomotion underscore BS. Okay, open it up. Now expand horizontal axis and vertical axis. The horizontal axis will be direction. The vertical axis will be the speed. Minimum axis value will be -180. Maximum axis value will be 180. Number of grid divisions will be 8. Minimum axis value for the speed will be 0. Maximum axis value will be 800. You can set your speed values to whatever you want. I'm going to set mine up this way. But just so you know, if you want to change the speed values, you're also going to have to go to the components, go to the stats component. In the character movement section, you're going to have to update the values here as well. So that way this system knows what to change the speed values back to whenever it changes the speed values. So for example, whenever the character is drinking a potion, his movement speed is decreased. Whenever it sets the movement speed back, it's going to set it to whatever these values are here. Okay, now get your idle animation and drag that into the base locomotion Blendspace. You're going to need to drag that for all the grid points here. Okay, now let's set up the animations for strafing. So to do that, we're going to need some walking animations first. I'm going to place all my walking animations at a speed of 300. So first let's get walk forward loop. Place that at speed 300 in direction 0. Strafe right loop will be direction 90. Strafe left loop will be direction -90. Walk backward loop will be direction -180 and direction 180. Okay, now strafe right 45 will be at direction 45. Strafe left 45 will be here at -45 direction. Strafe right 135 will be 135 on the direction. Strafe left 135 will be -135 on the direction. We're going to add the jogging animations to 600 on the speed. The direction will be set up the exact same way as walking. So we need our run forward loop at direction 0, run right loop at direction 90, run left loop at direction -90, run backward loop at direction -180 and 180. Strafe right 45 at 45. Run strafe left 45 at -45. Run strafe right 135 will be here at 135. Run strafe left 135 will be -135. Now find the sprinting animation and add that to the maximum speed here. Now let's go ahead and drag this into the animation blueprint. Plug it into the output pose, plug direction to direction, speed into speed, compile and save. So let's go ahead and test it out. Everything is working exactly the way it's supposed to. The setup process is the exact same for every other combat type, so I shouldn't really have to show you again for any other combat type. But I will go ahead and change the blend spaces for light sword, just to show you that the process is the same for every other combat type. Quick note on the naming conventions of some animations. Forward right is 45 on the direction, forward left is -45 on the direction, back right is 135 on the direction, and back left is -135 on the direction. After you went through a similar process with the unarmed combat and created all the blend spaces for light sword, you can go ahead and drag them all into the proper states. So for idle, idle, idle and turns, idle, drag your light sword idle animation in there. I'm using the Protector pack from the Unreal Marketplace by Weapon Master Anim Set. Okay, for the start transitions, these aren't set up in the same way they were for the unarmed. So what you can do is just go back to your ground locomotion, go to start transitions, and just copy and paste. Okay, now drag both light sword jog start and walk start blend spaces. Okay, now let's test it out. So in order to test it out, we're going to need to give him a light sword. To do that, go to the blueprints folder, Open up the RPG game mode. Here on the equipped items, just go ahead and add an item. Type in steel sword. Compile and save. Okay, now let's test it out. As you can see, the animations have been changed. Okay, now let's change the block loop animation and the jumping animations. So now go back to the animation blueprint. Under the anim graph, open up the blocking state. Here you can set up a block start animation if you have one. And here in the blocking state is where you want to add your block loop animation. So here for light sword pose, we want to go ahead and delete that. Now you need to find the block loop animation that you want to change it out for and drag it in here and plug that into the light sword pose. The setup process for this should be pretty straightforward. You drag in your block loop animation for each combat type and plug them into the proper one. For the block start, it's a similar process, except there is one additional thing you have to do. Go to the event graph, go to store info from components. Here you can decide which combat types have block start transition animations. So let's say you have a block start transition animation for light sword, but you don't have one for any other combat type. You just check light sword to true. After that, you go to block start, then you add your block start animation for light sword and plug that into the light sword pose. You can do a similar process for focus transitions. It works the same. Okay, now let's change the jumping animations for unarmed and light sword. To do that, go ahead and open up add jump to locomotion, open up jump start. Now for both default pose and unarmed combat pose, delete them and get your jump animation. Add that here. Same thing for light sword. I'm also going to use the same animation for sword and shield that I used for light sword. Now go to your jump loop and do the same thing. Okay, now go back to add jump to locomotion state machine. For jump in, you don't have to change the animation if you don't want to, because I'm using an additive animation. Additive is like additive over top of whatever animation is currently playing. So this one will work for pretty much any situation. Let's go ahead and test it out to see how it works. Let's go ahead and test the block that we added. That's working exactly the way it's supposed to. Now let's jump. As you can see, the jumping animations have been changed. I'm going to put away my sword, and the unarmed jumping animations have been changed also. As you can see, the additive landing animations are working as well. Work for both combat types just fine. Okay, now I'm going to teach you how to set up crouching animations. So go to the anim graph. Find the part of the anim graph that is labeled crouching. I didn't really have any crouch start or crouch stop animations, so I didn't really set it up like I did the other combat types. So we'll go ahead and delete this. We don't need it. If you have the animations, go ahead and create crouch start, crouch stop, and then crouch locomotion blend spaces. The setup process for crouch start and stop transitions are similar to what we've done previously, so I'm not going to teach that again. However, for the crouch locomotion blend space, the setup is slightly different, so I'm going to go ahead and show that to you now. Similar to before, the horizontal axis will be direction. Minimum axis value minus 180. Maximum axis value is 180. The number of grid divisions will be 8. Vertical axis will be speed. Minimum axis value will be 0. Maximum walking speed for crouching is 300, so set that to 300. And the number of grid divisions will be 2. Now drag your crouch idle animation and put that at the bottom. Now what we need to do is get the crouch walking animations and place them at the top for the correct direction values. Once you've done that, your crouch locomotion blend space should look something like this. Actually, instead of 2 grid divisions for speed, I'm going to use only 1. Okay, now save. Now go back to the animation blueprint. For crouching, we can copy ground locomotion and paste it here. We'll call this one crouching state. Open it up. Now let's go ahead and change all the animations out. Okay, now let's create a transition to go from idle to crouching. First thing we need to do is add a state. Call this one enter crouch. Now I'll plug this into idle. This transition will be an automatic rule. Create another one. Get speed. So if speed is greater than 0. Okay, now open up enter crouch. Now get an idle to crouch animation. Drag that in here. Compile and save. Okay, now let's test it out and see how it works. So the idle to crouch is working. Crouch start is working. Crouch stop is working. Except with the crouch start, it looks like he's dragging his feet a little bit. So we can fix that. Let's go to start transitions. We'll try 0.34 and see if that looks good. Looks much better.